The Time-Traveling English Teacher. The Time-Traveling English Teacher. Part 1. The attic was a stifling, dusty space, smelling faintly of mothballs and forgotten memories. Sunlight struggled to penetrate the grime-coated skylight, casting long, dancing shadows on the cluttered floor. 15-year-old Alex, armed with a flashlight and a burgeoning sense of boredom, rummaged through boxes overflowing with antique furniture, tattered clothing, and yellowed photographs. He was on a mission to unearth something, anything that could alleviate the monotony of summer vacation. Suddenly, his hand brushed against something solid and rectangular, tucked away in the corner of a particularly dusty trunk. He pulled it out, revealing a thick leather-bound book. Its cover, faded and worn, bore no title, only an intricate, embossed design that seemed vaguely familiar. Curiosity piqued, Alex brushed off the dust, revealing the words Advanced English Grammar and Composition, etched in faded gold lettering. Seriously? Alex scoffed, his initial excitement fading. An old textbook? That's the best this attic has to offer? He was about to toss it back into the trunk when something about the book's weathered texture and the faint scent of old paper emanating from its pages drew him in. He flipped it open, expecting to find brittle pages filled with dry, archaic rules. Instead, the first page displayed a vibrant, hand-drawn illustration of a bustling Victorian street scene. Horse-drawn carriages clattered down cobbled streets. Elegantly dressed ladies strolled along the sidewalks, and gas lamps cast a warm, inviting glow on the scene. As Alex traced the lines of the illustration with his finger, a strange sensation washed over him. The attic seemed to dissolve around him, the dusty air replaced by the crisp, cool air of a London morning. The smell of coal smoke and horse manure filled his nostrils, and the sound of clip-clopping hooves and lively chatter echoed in his ears. He blinked, bewildered, finding himself standing on the very street depicted in the book. The illustration had sprung to life, a three-dimensional, vibrant reality. Alex gawked at the scene before him, a mixture of awe and disbelief churning in his stomach. A tall, imposing figure in a top hat and frock coat approached him, his face adorned with a neatly trimmed beard and piercing blue eyes. Well, what have we here?" the man boomed, his voice resonating with authority. "A young traveler, lost in time, I presume." Alex stammered, I don't understand. How did I get here?" The man chuckled. "It seems you've stumbled upon a rather unique textbook, young man. This book, you see, is a gateway to different eras of the English language, and it seems you've activated its magic." "Magic?" Alex repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. "Indeed," the man confirmed with a twinkle in his eye. "And I, my dear boy, am Charles Dickens. Welcome to the Victorian era." Before Alex could fully process the revelation that he was face to face with the legendary author, another figure materialized beside Dickens. A woman with fiery red hair and a sharp, intelligent gaze. "Don't let him intimidate you, young scholar," she said with a wry smile. "He's just fond of theatrics." "And who might you be?" Alex asked, feeling increasingly overwhelmed. "I am George Eliot," the woman replied, "and we, along with a few other esteemed colleagues, are here to guide you on your journey through the history of our beloved language." Dickens cleared his throat. "However, this journey is not without its challenges. To return to your own time, you must prove your mastery of the English language in each era you visit. We shall present you with language puzzles and tasks. Succeed, and you may move on. Fail, and, well, let's just say you might be lingering in the past longer than you anticipated. A shiver ran down Alex's spine. He had always struggled with English class, finding grammar tedious and vocabulary a chore. Now his ability to conquer the nuances of the language would determine his fate. Elliot patted his shoulder reassuringly. Don't fret, young one. We'll start you off with something simple. Tell me, what is the difference between a metaphor and a simile? Alex gulped. His journey through time and his unexpected English lesson had just begun. The Time-Traveling English Teacher, Part 2. A wave of dizziness washed over Alex as the cobbled streets of Victorian London dissolved into a blinding white light. When he could see again, he found himself standing in a sun-drenched marketplace, the air filled with the sounds of lively bartering and unfamiliar melodic speech. Towering marble columns and intricately sculpted statues adorned the surrounding buildings, hinting at the grandeur of the era he had landed in. Welcome to ancient Greece, young scholar, a deep voice boomed from behind him. Alex turned to face a tall, imposing figure clad in a flowing white robe. His long gray beard and piercing blue eyes held a wisdom that seemed to transcend time itself. Socrates, I presume? Alex ventured, recalling the countless philosophical texts he had skimmed through in his history classes. Socrates nodded, a faint smile playing on his lips. And you, if I'm not mistaken, are the time-traveling student tasked with mastering the intricacies of our language. Alex swallowed nervously. This was ancient Greece, the birthplace of democracy, philosophy, and the very foundations of the English language he struggled with back home. Indeed, Alex confirmed, his voice laced with uncertainty. But the language, it's so different now. I can barely understand a word. That, my young friend, is precisely the challenge, Socrates replied. Language is a living entity, constantly evolving, adapting. To truly understand its present form, you must delve into its past, its roots. Before Alex could protest, Socrates gestured towards a series of clay tablets covered in intricate symbols. These tablets contain fragments of some of our earliest philosophical discussions. Your task is to decipher them, to understand their meaning. Alex stared at the tablets, his mind reeling. He recognized some of the symbols. They vaguely resembled the Greek alphabet he had once seen in the textbook, but the rest was a jumbled mess, a code he couldn't crack. I don't know how, Alex confessed, his shoulders slumping. Fear not, young scholar, another voice chimed in. A woman draped in a vibrant purple robe approached them. Her dark curly hair was adorned with a laurel wreath, and her eyes sparkled with intelligence. I am Hypatia, she introduced herself, a philosopher and a teacher. I shall guide you in your linguistic quest. Hypatia explained the basics of the ancient Greek script, pointing out the similarities and differences with the modern English alphabet. She taught him how to recognize common words, how to analyze sentence structure, and how to decipher the meaning behind the cryptic symbols. The task was daunting. Every unfamiliar word, every grammatical nuance felt like a hurdle on Alex's path back home. He stumbled, he made mistakes, and every error seemed to delay his return, anchoring him further in the past. But as he delved deeper into the language, a strange sense of fascination began to bloom within him. He saw how the building blocks of English, the very grammar rules he used to despise, had their origins in this ancient civilization. He saw how the evolution of language mirrored the evolution of human thought, of culture, of society. Days turned into weeks as Alex immersed himself in the study of ancient Greek. He spent hours poring over the tablets, engaging in lively debates with Socrates and Hypatia, and slowly, painstakingly, piecing together the fragments of ancient wisdom. One afternoon, as he deciphered a particularly complex passage about the nature of justice, a warm sensation spread through him. He felt a connection to the past, a deep understanding of the language that transcended time and space. He looked up at Socrates and Hypatia, a newfound confidence in his eyes. I think I understand, he said, his voice filled with wonder. Socrates smiled, his eyes twinkling with approval. Excellent, young scholar. You have proven your dedication, your willingness to learn. You're ready to move on to the next stage of your journey. As the familiar white light enveloped Alex, he couldn't help but feel a pang of regret at leaving ancient Greece behind. He had arrived with apprehension, with a sense of dread for the linguistic challenges that awaited him. But he was leaving with a newfound appreciation for the language he had once struggled with, a language that now held a deeper meaning, a richer history. He was ready to face the next chapter of his time-traveling adventure, armed with the knowledge and the confidence he had gained in this ancient land. The Time-Traveling English Teacher, Part 3. The blinding white light faded, replaced by the warm glow of flickering torches illuminating a grand hall. Alex found himself standing on a polished wooden floor, surrounded by towering tapestries and elaborately carved furniture. The air hummed with the sound of lively chatter and the clinking of glasses. He had arrived in the heart of the Renaissance, a period of artistic and intellectual flourishing. Welcome, young traveler, to the Age of Enlightenment, a booming voice announced. Alex turned to face a man with a receding hairline and a neatly trimmed beard, dressed in a richly embroidered doublet and hose. His eyes sparkled with intelligence and a hint of mischief. William Shakespeare, I presume? Alex asked, recognizing the iconic playwright from his literature class. Shakespeare bowed theatrically. The very same. At your service. And you, young scholar, must be the time-traveling student tasked with unraveling the secrets of our language. Alex nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. He had always found Shakespeare's plays challenging, the language dense and unfamiliar. But now he was standing face to face with the master himself, ready to delve into the intricacies of Elizabethan English. Your task, young scholar, Shakespeare declared, is to unlock the hidden passage within this very castle. The key lies within the words themselves, within the very fabric of our language. He gestured towards a large, ornate bookcase lining one wall of the hall. Within these volumes you will find clues, riddles, and puzzles, all written in the language of my plays. Decipher them, master the vocabulary and expressions of our time, and the passage shall reveal itself. Alex's heart sank. This was no simple grammar exercise or vocabulary test. This was a treasure hunt through the intricate world of Shakespearean English, a world filled with double meanings, metaphors, and archaic expressions. He approached the bookcase, his fingers tracing the spines of the leather-bound volumes. He recognized titles like Hamlet, Macbeth, and Romeo and Juliet, plays he had struggled to understand in his own time. Now they held the key to his escape from this era. Days turned into weeks as Alex immersed himself in Shakespeare's world. He read the plays, dissected the language, and wrestled with the complex vocabulary and sentence structures. He consulted with Shakespeare himself, engaging in lively discussions about the meaning behind the words, the nuances of the characters, and the power of language to convey emotions and ideas. He learned about iambic pentameter, about the use of metaphors and similes, about the art of crafting compelling dialogues and monologues. He discovered the beauty and the power of Shakespearean English, a language that could express the depths of human emotions with unparalleled eloquence. As he solved the riddles and puzzles hidden within the books, he felt a growing sense of accomplishment. He was not just memorizing words and definitions, he was unlocking the secrets of a language, understanding its rhythm, its flow, its soul. One evening, as he deciphered a particularly cryptic clue hidden within a passage from Hamlet, a hidden door swung open in the wall behind the bookcase. Alex gasped, his heart pounding with excitement. He had found the hidden passage. He stepped through the doorway, finding himself in a narrow, dimly lit corridor. As he followed the passage, he encountered other historical figures from the Renaissance poets, playwrights, and philosophers, each offering their own linguistic challenges and insights. He met John Milton, who tested his knowledge of epic poetry. He debated with Christopher Marlowe about the use of blank verse. He discussed the power of rhetoric with Queen Elizabeth II herself. Each encounter deepened his understanding of the language, expanding his vocabulary and refining his grasp of grammar and syntax. He was no longer just a student struggling with English class. He was a time traveler, a linguistic explorer, navigating the rich tapestry of the English language through its various historical periods. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, he reached the end of the passage, a hidden chamber bathed in soft sunlight. A portal shimmered in the center of the room, a gateway back to his own time. As he stepped through the portal, he couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for his unexpected journey through the Renaissance. He had arrived with trepidation, intimidated by the language of Shakespeare and his contemporaries, but he was leaving with a newfound appreciation for the beauty and the power of Elizabethan English, a language that had shaped the course of literature and continues to inspire and challenge readers and writers to this day. He was ready to face the future of language, armed with the wisdom of the past. The Time-Traveling English Teacher, Part 4. The familiar disorientation of time travel hit Alex once again, the Renaissance chamber fading into a blinding flash. This time he found himself standing in a bustling metropolis unlike anything he had ever seen. Sleek, towering structures of glass and steel pierced the sky. Holographic advertisements flickered across their surfaces, and strange, levitating vehicles zipped through the air. He had landed in the future, a world where technology had transformed every aspect of life, including language. "Welcome, traveler, to Neo-London," a voice echoed in his mind, startling him. It wasn't spoken aloud, but rather transmitted directly into his consciousness. Alex spun around, trying to locate the source of the voice. A young woman with vibrant blue hair and cybernetic implants woven into her skin approached him. "Don't be alarmed," she said, a slight smile playing on her lips. "We communicate through neural interfaces here. No need for archaic vocalizations." Alex blinked, overwhelmed. Neural interfaces? Archaic vocalizations? He struggled to keep up. "Indeed," the woman confirmed, "I am Anya, your guide in this era. As you can see, language has evolved significantly. We've moved beyond the limitations of traditional speech and writing." Alex looked around, bewildered. People conversed through a series of beeps, clicks, and whistles. their words appearing as holographic text above their heads. Screens displayed a constant stream of information in a language he could barely decipher, filled with abbreviations, emojis, and symbols he had never encountered. "But how do you understand each other?" Alex asked, his voice laced with confusion. Anya chuckled. "Our neural interfaces translate everything in real time. We can communicate with anyone, regardless of their native language or even species, for that matter." She gestured towards a screen displaying a complex code of flashing lights and symbols. "Your challenge, traveler, is to decipher this message. It contains the key to your return journey." Alex stared at the screen, his mind reeling. This wasn't just a different language, it was a completely different mode of communication. He felt a wave of despair wash over him. He had mastered the nuances of Shakespearean English, decoded ancient Greek script, but this felt impossible. Anya sensed his frustration. "Don't despair, traveler. The principles of language remain the same, even in this evolved form. Look for patterns, analyze the structure, and you'll find the key." She then began to explain the basics of this futuristic language, how the flashing lights represented different phonemes, how the symbols conveyed complex concepts, and how the entire system was built upon a foundation of logic and efficiency. Alex spent days immersed in the study of this new language, his brain struggling to adapt to the rapid-fire communication and the overwhelming influx of information. He practiced deciphering coded messages, interacted with AI-powered language tutors, and even ventured into virtual reality simulations to immerse himself in the futuristic linguistic landscape. Slowly, painstakingly, he began to make progress. He started to recognize patterns in the flashing lights, to understand the logic behind the symbols, and to decipher simple phrases. He even learned to communicate through basic neural impulses, a strange and exhilarating experience. As he delved deeper into this futuristic language, he realized that it wasn't so different from the languages of the past. It had evolved, adapted, but the core principles of communication remained the same. It was still about conveying meaning, sharing ideas, connecting with others. One evening, as he was working on deciphering a particularly complex message, a wave of clarity washed over him. He saw the patterns, understood the logic, and the entire message clicked into place. It was a set of coordinates, a location that held the key to his return journey. With a newfound sense of confidence, he followed the coordinates to a hidden portal tucked away in a bustling marketplace. He had successfully navigated the linguistic landscape of the future, proving his adaptability and his unwavering dedication to understanding the ever-evolving nature of language. As he stepped through the portal, he couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and wonder at the journey he had undertaken. He had traveled through time, explored the history of the English language, and witnessed its evolution into a futuristic form he could never have imagined. He was ready to return to his own time, armed with a newfound appreciation for the power of language, its ability to connect us across time, space, and even technological divides. The Time-Traveling English Teacher, Part 5. The familiar attic reappeared, the musty smell of old books and forgotten memories welcoming Alex back to his own time. He blinked, the bright sunlight streaming through the grimy skylight momentarily blinding him after his journey through the neon-lit future. The old English textbook lay open on the floor beside him, the Victorian street scene on its first page now strangely familiar. He stood up, stretching his limbs, feeling a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. His journey through time had been a whirlwind of linguistic challenges, pushing him to the limits of his understanding and forcing him to confront his own preconceptions about language. He picked up the textbook, its worn leather cover feeling warm and comforting in his hands. It was no longer just an old, dusty relic. It was a symbol of his incredible adventure, a testament to the power of language to transcend time and space. He descended the creaky attic stairs, his mind racing with thoughts and memories of the different eras he had visited. He had debated philosophy with Socrates in ancient Greece, deciphered Shakespearean riddles in the Renaissance, and navigated the complexities of futuristic communication in Neo-London. Each encounter had left an indelible mark on him, shaping his understanding of language in profound ways. He realized that language wasn't just a set of rules and definitions. It was a living, breathing entity, constantly evolving, adapting, reflecting the culture, the technology, and the very essence of the people who used it. He returned to his room, the familiar posters and scattered school books grounding him in the present. He sat down at his desk, a sense of anticipation bubbling within him. His English exam was the next day, an exam he had been dreading for weeks. But now he felt a strange sense of calm, a newfound confidence in his abilities. He opened his English textbook, the words no longer appearing as a jumbled mess of confusing rules and exceptions. He saw the echoes of ancient Greek in the grammatical structures, the influence of Shakespeare in the rich vocabulary, the hints of futuristic innovation in the way language could be manipulated and adapted. He studied with a renewed focus, his mind effortlessly connecting the dots between the different eras and linguistic styles he had encountered. He saw the beauty and the complexity of grammar, the power in the precision of vocabulary, the artistry in the way language could be used to craft compelling narratives and express profound ideas. The next day, he walked into the exam hall with a confident stride. The questions that had once seemed daunting now appeared as mere puzzles waiting to be solved. He wrote with fluency and clarity, his words flowing effortlessly onto the page, reflecting his deep understanding of the history and evolution of the English language. He finished the exam with time to spare, a sense of accomplishment washing over him. He knew he had aced it, not just because he had memorized the rules and definitions, but because he had truly grasped the essence of language, its power to connect, to inspire, to transcend. The results came back a few weeks later, confirming what he already knew. He had scored the highest in his class, a feat he had never imagined possible. His teacher praised his insightful analysis, his creative use of language, and his deep understanding of the subject matter. Alex's journey through time had transformed him from a struggling student into a confident and passionate language enthusiast. He no longer saw English as a chore, but as a gateway to endless possibilities, a tool for communication, creativity, and self-expression. He continued to explore the world of language, delving into different cultures, learning new languages, and experimenting with different writing styles. He became an avid reader, a passionate writer, and a lifelong learner, always seeking to expand his knowledge and appreciation of the language that had once seemed so daunting. And every now and then, he would revisit the attic, gazing at the old English textbook that had started it all, a reminder of his incredible journey through time and the transformative power of language. He knew that the lessons he had learned would stay with him forever, shaping his perspective and enriching his life in countless ways. The time-traveling English teacher had done more than just improve his grades. It had opened his eyes to the beauty, the complexity, and the infinite possibilities of the language that connected him to the past, the present, and the future.